All right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our first webinar for Jet.Build. I am Adam Stark, as you obviously see me there with no glasses. This is my first go using this platform, so if there's any glitches or something's not working, please just send a note chat or message me on LinkedIn outside of this portal. I'd appreciate you letting me know so that I can make sure that you see what I'm trying to show you. All right, so as you know, today's discussion topic is stop overpaying, the true costs of construction management software, and how to cut your overhead. So the discussion is really going to be driven based off of what I hear day in and out, talking to industry professionals, talking to our clients, migrating our clients off of platforms. So it's really just from my experience, which I think is pretty reasonable in terms of how much I've seen and heard and been involved with as it relates to other platforms and situations. But obviously, if you hear me say something that you think is not correct, or if you have something to add to what I'm saying as it relates to the topics that we'll go through as I go through the slideshow, please feel free to reach out. Always happy to be corrected. Always happy to learn more. And just grow in my knowledge base and capability to host these kinds of events. So, all right, going to flip to our first slide, kind of doubling down on what I was just mentioning in terms of what we see, right? What we see our clients and or just industry professionals face as it relates to costly overhead on softwares. Now, I think what's interesting to also understand is that, I see this across industries, so it's not even necessarily industry as agnostic. That said, I'm going to drill down on, in particular, what we're seeing in construction and development. So first and foremost, cost plus. So what I mean by that is module-based pricing, and why that becomes really onerous or really expensive over time. So just hitting my cursor over cost plus here. Over time is that we'll see clients need, for example, one or two solutions within a module, so call it accounting, right? So let's say a client will need invoice management and purchase orders within an entire accounting module. However, they won't need the balance. Nonetheless, they are paying for the entirety of that module. So as you can imagine, that obviously becomes very costly to be spending or purchasing on a holistic basis, so purchasing an entire module yet only using one or two solutions. You're probably also therefore going to be using pointed solutions to cover the balance of those gaps that you're not using on this specific platform, which brings us to that next bullet point, is pointed solutions, right? Which I think is kind of self-explanatory in that you're using multiple platforms for specific solutions, where obviously that's going to eventually add up. And not only does it add up in terms of cost, but it also will diminish efficiency, because you'll have not only you or your internal teams, but you'll also have external teams needing to access information or specific solutions across platforms versus a single source of truth, right? Versus an SSoT. But going back to that cost plus dynamic, right? So let's say you need one or two solutions within a module. That ends up stacking up, adding up across modules as you're being priced per module. There's also other iterations of that, for example, by user, right? So as we all know in our industry, the more that you can onboard, the more people, stakeholders, teams that you can leverage on a single platform, the more efficient you're going to be, the more successful your project is going to be, the better the outcome. Because collaboration must occur across teams. So if you're paying for user on a user basis, whether that's internal or external users, I mean, you're either going to allow for diminished efficiency, back to kind of this pointed solution effect, because therefore that platform will, I guess, naturally become pointed if it's only for a specific set of users. But you're also going to diminish, your capability of collaborating across those teams, which just simply can't work well long term for your project. So these two are certainly intertwined, or they can be intertwined. Dropping down to now revenue based, I think that one tends to be pretty self-explanatory. That just can't be easy and it can't be cost effective to be paying for a platform based off of your percentage of ACV, especially when you're paying up front, right? You're typically going to pay up front for ERP platforms for significant business solutions. So if you're paying up front based on a percentage of ACV and something happens, whether it's up or down, it's kind of a gamble, right? It doesn't really allow you to forecast your spending properly, and you're also likely to get hit by compounding costs, right? So kind of the more that you try to grow as a business, the more overhead is going to hit you on that software cost on a compounding factor. So what I mean by that compounding factor, I'll just hash that out a little bit, is a lot of times you'll see the capability, regardless of industry, to purchase in bulk, right? So essentially, if you're willing to use a platform more upfront, you should therefore be able to effectively reduce the overall cost per project. I mean, however you want to kind of perceive it, but the overall cost across your portfolio. However, if you're working off of a percentage of ACV basis, then it'll kind of have a reverse effect where you're going to get dinged for trying to use the platform more. So that's also another element in terms of what we see for compounding costs and overhead increasing based on softwares. Lastly, industry agnostic. Am I right here? Efficiency loss, because if you're using, for example, solutions like a Monday.com or like a Smart Sheets, for example, and trying to implement that for project management, development management, construction management, solutions that exist and are built out specific to industry. If you're using one of these generic project management tools, you're just going to straight up lose efficiency trying to manage project teams and projects, generally speaking, and therefore the efficiency loss, the time loss is obviously correlated with cost. So here are 4 kind of just buckets of what we see in terms of why softwares become very expensive, why they add up over time. Sometimes it's a combination of some of these, sometimes it's a combination of literally all of these, and of course that just expands on how much your overhead is going to increase year over year. So any questions on that, please just drop a comment. I hope that you are able to drop comments. I think I would see it if you do. If not, you can yell at me after on LinkedIn, and please do that so I can learn on how to improve these webinars. All right, moving onward, we're going to start with construction management software. What we've created here is kind of just a template of a grid, right, of softwares that we come across, what their pricing models are, upsell approaches are, and their relative cost structure. And again, this is from supporting clients, talking with leads, helping with migration to Jet.Build platform. So if any of this is wrong, then again, happy to be corrected. And also, I'm not necessarily saying this is so literal, but just generally speaking, these are buckets that we've created. Of course, we have industry leader Procore. They're going to take that percentage of ACV approach plus that cost plus, that module-based pricing. So, of course, what that's going to do is put them in this relative cost bucket of the highest. That said, they're, of course, the industry leader in terms of their brand. So I guess they're able to get away with that. But what we're seeing is that as companies try to grow and as they try to leverage more of the platform, their costs are exponentially increasing, right? So that's really just a tough one to absorb. We tend to see a lot of kind of friction up against kind of the Procore brand in general, specifically related to their pricing structure and how much it costs to leverage their platform. We've seen some really crazy attempts of workarounds where clients will not upload budgets to the accounting tool because they don't want to get knocked on a price hike, price increase, again because of that pricing model of percentage of ACV. So that's obviously one, hitting you on a price point perspective, but it's also going to really knock you in terms of efficiency if you're trying to leverage a project management software and work around how that software functions. So not really great experience or cost dynamic there. So Autodesk Construction Cloud, known for their BIM modeling, their AutoCAD platform. They've more recently started to kind of build out their construction cloud, their ACC platform, which supports construction management. As you can see here, we listed it as modular subscription because it's exactly kind of as I pointed out there, where they'll have different modules within their platform. They'll price per those modules. So kind of similar to Procore, except it's a little bit more fractured, I'll call it, because it's crossing over different verticals. You're right, coming from design team to a GC, for example. So a little bit different, nonetheless, still the same. What we've understood from their pricing model is a little bit funkier, where they'll cross over a few of those categories that we had mentioned on that prior screen. As you can see here, as it relates to whether it's add-ons, whether it's cost plus to add their analytics tools, the support packages, so on and so forth. So again, the feedback that we get is it's just a bit of a clunky pricing model, probably because they're trying to bridge different verticals of platforms into one ecosystem. Next, we're going to go to PlanGrid, which was acquired by Autodesk. I think it's still being sold as a dedicated platform, at least until it potentially gets sunsetted and absorbed into the Autodesk ecosystem. What you're seeing here is a per user and per project price point. So again, that's going to really diminish your capability of efficiency, right? If you're going to be picking and choosing for every single project who you're going to add, what kind of cost structure that's going to do, it's going to hit you with. If you've progressed through some of the project and now you no longer need that person involved, you now kick them off and bring someone else on. So just it's a silly model in terms of just holistic project controls and efficiency from an end-to-end kind of perspective. Maybe it works great if you're just upfront, needing a few people, then the balance you're taking in-house. I'm not sure. Anyways, that's kind of friction we hear on the PlanGrid model. Next, we'll drop down to eBuilder. What we've understood is it's very much a customized package, also on that kind of module basis, so that cost plus kind of structure, going from the product itself to the support packages. And also what we've understood from that is inevitably costs always are going to be on that high end, which is why we listed that as a 5. Next, you'll have FieldWire, which is really a pointed solution. I should have added PlanGrid, also a pointed solution. So it's not going to truly take you end to end on a project. So you're also going to need other solutions to take on the balance of what that product is not servicing. Same thing with FieldWire. That said, you can just really stick with the fact that it being a pointed solution, it's the pointed solution itself is not that expensive, as you can see here, being at number 2. What ends up being expensive is adding on other solutions to your tech stack to supplement FieldWire and vice versa. Just to show you, we had another full-on breakdown of more of solutions, so you can see the kind of research we put behind this. One I want to highlight is that Oracle Aconex, because the reason I want to highlight this in particular is because this is also an end-to-end solution. That said, they're very custom in their kind of approach, doing that module basis, and inevitably always bringing you to that 5 relative cost price range. So if you want any of these slides, obviously if you took a screenshot, you have a screenshot, but if you want me to share this information with you, just please reach out and I'll send you the link. Moving on, kind of giving you a visualization of really what I was talking about there in terms of pointed solution, as it goes across kind of the verticals of who needs to be leveraging platforms, leveraging products. So you can see here on the top, really a big reason why we're seeing issues in the industry is because of the fragmented environment that exists, right? Naturally so, because we have different verticals that must be involved, that must collaborate on a project, which in the end, you have gaps, as we highlight here, across verticals, and solutions that are generally speaking geared to specific verticals within the overall process of development and construction, therefore leading to fragmentation and gaps, which ties into what I've been saying thus far, which is pointed solution, multiple solutions, module-based pricing. All of these different dynamics end up adding up, and obviously therefore costing a lot in terms of hitting you on overhead, making it difficult to grow as a business. We also made just a breakdown of supplementary software tools that we see often. Some of these were listed on that prior example, that prior graph. Whether it's estimating tools, whether it's Bluebeam specific to a drawing management tool. Of course, we all know what Teams and Slack is. Smartsheets I had mentioned earlier, right? So just very pointed solutions that are solutions that are either made for the industry, however, very pointed to specific verticals. For example, right, Bluebeam being document and drawing management. Or you're going to have something like a Smartsheets or a Teams that is not going to be industry specific, and therefore you're not going to have full kind of efficiency gains on what you're trying to leverage that tool for specific to the industry. This was just a continued version. You can see additional added tools. I'll note here that on the QuickBooks front, putting aside the literal accounting based, people are also, industry builders are also using QuickBooks for front-facing project accounting modules. Same thing with other accounting solutions, which again, it could work, of course, but it's not specific to that kind of a mechanism that you're trying to leverage. That being project-facing accounting controls, right? Specific for construction, specific for real estate development, and therefore it's kind of an efficiency knock, an efficiency loss in that regard. So closing out, getting to our cut and overhead cost kind of strategy here. One is, just upfront understand what kind of pricing that you're getting into, if that's that module basis that I've been mentioning, if it's pointed and you're going to need other solutions, if it's tiered as it relates to support and training. So just get a really good grasp and understanding of the holistic kind of pricing that you're going to need before you make a commitment, so that you don't end up with a semi-usable platform or a pointed solution that you're going to have to add on to later, add on to your tech stack later. Scalable plans, right? Make sure, we talked about that percentage of ACV earlier. Really what we're seeing on that percentage of ACV typically is the more a client grows, meaning the more the client's trying to build, the more that cost just skyrockets. It doesn't kind of grow in a relative manner, just the curve absolutely shoots up. So just be mindful of that and aware of what it looks like to kind of scale with that platform. So in terms of the key features, if you're looking at a platform that's giving you a cost plus dynamic, then just make sure that out of that cost plus module, right, that extra module, what you're actually going to need or not need to understand if that's going to end up being too excessive in terms of pricing, or too lackluster in terms of solutions that you're actually going to be trying to leverage from that platform. Those long-term contracts, right? So if you get locked in and you're stuck with these items 1, 2, and 3, that's gonna hurt for a long time. So I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory for any industry in terms of that contract term. Onboarding process, right? I mean, twofold. One is make sure that onboarding is included with onboarding training, right? Is included with whatever package or software that you're going with. That said, something I also want to highlight on this simplify onboarding item number 5 here is that so many times I've heard from clients that they're coming off of a platform that took them literally 5-6 months to onboard or to get used to or to fully ramp up with. So I mean, two elements to that, right? One element is obviously if you have a project that's not active or that's not ramped up, then that could be a part of a part of the reasons why, right, onboarding is taking that long, which is, of course, I think not fair to kind of ding that company for that software for. However, putting that aside, right, like presuming that your project is ready to be, onboarded, meaning you're mobilized and you're starting construction and you're starting to need to use that software. I mean, it should really take, call it 1 month for you to start really leveraging the platform, and then whatever additional amount of time is kind of just niche or nuanced learning of the platform. Maybe it's feedback iteration, reviews, maybe it's a new project is onboarded and you just need a bit more help. But basically, bottom line is what I'm saying is that if you have a project fully ready to go, and or if you're fully ready to start leveraging solutions on that platform, you should be aiming for a month, no more, to be able to start really leveraging the tool. Plan for growth, right? I mean, that going back to kind of what I was mentioning before in terms of scalable plans and transparency, just make sure that you have an understanding of percentage increase or increase generally speaking year over year, and or if you were to add XYZ amount of project, XYZ amount of ACV, what is that going to look like for you? So make sure you don't dive in and kind of get stuck for that long-term goal of creating efficiency for projects. Last but not least, if someone's not willing to, if a company's not willing to allow you a trial to just understand how the platform works and looks, maybe with your data and or with a sandbox data that you can just click around and mess with, then maybe you should look elsewhere. I think most solutions, if not all, are going to allow you that opportunity to really just click around and understand the platform a little yourself. That's all for today. We got a few more minutes left over. I don't know if you see my ticker here. It's a little bit over the 30-minute mark. That's because I jumped on early. I know we're running until 4 p.m. Central. So that said, if anybody has any questions, comments, I'm not necessarily sure if I can see. Oh, here we go. I got a chat on here on the right. Yep, not sure if anyone dropped a question. If you want to ask a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat or shoot me a message on LinkedIn directly. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the session. I recorded it. I'm going to post the session for people to see themselves, review later in case you didn't make it today. If you want me to talk about any topic in particular in the future, just let me know. Happy to add that on to our monthly rotation of webinars. Also, we'll likely look to have co-hosts to just give it a little bit more of a dynamic approach rather than just having it be me yapping for an entire 30 minutes. So if you want to be a co-host and offer up a session topic, please feel free to. If you have a recommendation on a co-host, please let me know. Happy to hear it. I'll pause now for a little bit, see if anyone does have any questions. Otherwise, we'll hop off in a minute or so.